since I'm already shooting fish in a barrel, let's make fun of rich people.
History bites the filthy, stinking rich. And look at some of the nastiest, meanest rich people who ever lived. How did they get so rich? And how can we do the same? Excellent.
Welcome to History Bites, the filthy, stinking rich. I'm Rick Green. Did you know if you had $1 for every millionaire in the United States, you'd be one yourself with $3.5 million? That's right, there are 3.5 million millionaires in the United States. Add in all the Canadian millionaires and you'd have another 300,000 loonies. The coins, I mean. All those millionaires, and it seems like at least half of them have written a book about how to get wealthy. So there's plenty of ideas out there for anyone who wants to be rich and can afford to sit around doing nothing for 5 months and reading them. Luckily, I could.
These books are 5 months overdue. You owe $328 in fines.
Just a sec. Insufficient funds? What did I Oh, yeah. 20 lousy bucks. 5, please, Sarah. The How to Get Rich books all have different titles, but they have remarkably similar ideas. I noticed there are 5 surefire secrets for reaching the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. Here we go. Build a large organization. That's a lot of work. Build a brand name. Oh, like I have the time for that. Fill a niche market. How? Empower teams of... Oh, yeah, right, sure, forget that. Invent a new idea. Yeah, sure, just think of something. Give me 5 of the filthy, stinking rich, please. How-to books can teach us how to get rich, but history can teach us how to get filthy, stinking rich. Yeah, I know a lot of wealthy people work very hard and earn their money. I actually know a few of them. But then there are the filthy, stinking rich. Run a country. See, now that's an organization worth running. Get a monopoly. Exactly. Who needs a brand name when you get a monopoly? Inherit it. Now we're talking. All right. Exploit people. Oh, way easier to exploit people than empower them. Oh, steal a good idea. See, now that seems doable. And there's one more method, the super secret 6 method. More about that later.
Filthy stinking method 1. Run a country.
Since civilization began, the simplest way to get filthy, stinking rich has been to run the civilization.
Kings, queens, pharaohs, and emperors were always the wealthiest people on Earth. Back when the Earth was still flat, they took control of a nation by being the meanest SOBs around.
Oh, congratulations on your victory, Alexander.
Well, they don't call me great for nothing. Tough battle, though. Tough battle.
It was tricky.
Yeah. I mean, how many people were in that city before we waged our attack?
12,423.
Wow. And how many are left?
3.
Huh. How you doing? Alexander the Great. Isn't great to meet you. Well, okay, you're hurt. You see that smoking pile of broken bricks that used to be your hometown? I did that. So, any questions? Are you trying to? Okay, you in the front, yes. What? Good question. When my dad died, I inherited Greece, but I guess I wanted a little bit more. You know,
the known world.
The known world. Unfortunately, your leader, Darius, well, he put up a fight. Oh, boy. As a favor for letting you live and not selling you to slavery, I need you to do a favor for me. Can you do that? Yeah. You need to go as far east as you can go. Go to cities and towns, Babylon, Susa, Gaza.
Yes.
Yes, can you do that? Okay. No. And, yeah, we're not, yeah. Oh, boy. I need you to tell them that if they surrender peacefully, well, they can keep their jobs and their things and houses and lives and so on and so forth. Right? Okay. Yeah, no, and they need to pay me a tribute. Taxes.
Protection money.
Yes. Security deposit. Off you go. Good. We're done.
Nowadays, to seize a country, you still need to be a mean SOB. Think of Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Kim Jong-il. Of course, running a country is risky.
Nonsense. It's a great life. Eating, conquering, enjoying banquets at the court of King Nebuchadnezzar.
Every year they publish a list of the world's most dangerous jobs. Fireman, policeman, never dictator. And yet, it's amazing how many despots, tyrants, and overlords died by the sword, or the cyanide, or the bullet.
Poor old Julius Caesar stabbed 23 times and left to bleed to death over hours. Augustus, they think, might have been poisoned. Probably Tiberius was poisoned. Galerius. Well, first he had an inflammation of his genitals. And then he got these ulcers opening up in his abdomen. And flies laid their eggs in the ulcers, so there were worms all through it. A couple of his doctors threw up and had to run away. They executed them, needless to say. Certainly Caligula was murdered. Ramses III was killed by the women of his harem. Herod the Great died from fever, rotting genitals, and worms. King Saul of Israel fell on his own sword. The Roman Emperor Valerian was captured by the Persians and used as a footstool by the enemy king. When he died, he was stuffed and mounted. Mary Queen of Scots was executed by having her head chopped off. And as the head rolled away, her little dog came out and lapped up the blood.
King Charles I of England.
Beheaded. Abraham Lincoln was shot, but also Garfield, McKinley, and John F. Kennedy. And even here in Canada, Thomas D'Arcy McGee and George Brown. A whole whack of Russian czars, Peter III, Paul, Alexander II, Nicholas II, and his whole family. They also beheaded Oliver Cromwell, but he had been dead for some time. The nastiest death I think I know about would be King Edward II of England. Somebody snuck into his cell one night, put a great big mattress over his head, stuck a copper tube up his anus, and then shoved a red-hot poker up through that. This seems to have killed him, but left no marks whatsoever on the body.
A safer approach to getting filthy, stinking rich, with far less risk of being murdered, is to find a nation that's already established and prosperous, say the Roman Empire, and then suckle greedily at its cash teat. The trick is not to be too conspicuous about how much pork you're getting from the barrel.
Just look at these bills. M, CC,
D, double D.
LXVII.
Hello, Lucius alias Sejanus, head of the Emperor's bodyguard and personal army. As head of national security, I have Emperor Tiberius's complete trust, and I've used it to build a trust of my own. Now I want yours.
I've amassed a fortune, but with so much uncertainty in the world, I'm worried about keeping my money safe.
You need Sejanus Direct. We'll make sure that your money is kept safe by taking it all away from you in convenient monthly bribes.
But what if we have a larger fortune to unload?
We'll have you arrested as a traitor. All your money will be carefully taken away and divided up. And so will you.
But what if my husband doesn't qualify as a traitor?
Relax. We make sure that charges are checked up, built up, and trumped up. No questions asked.
And it's all legal?
I said no questions asked.
No more worries!
No more nothing!
At Sejanus Direct, the rights, freedoms, and wealth of the individual are all important. And that individual is me, Lucius alias Sejanus.
Sejanus made a fortune from collecting bribes and arresting and executing people. But then, and you'll never see this coming, he was arrested and executed. So, how do you loot an empire without having your emperor strike back? The answer, of course, is to become the kingmaker, the power behind the throne, the puppet master.
You Julius, kid?
Who's asking?
The name's Marcus Licinius Crassus.
Yeah, I heard of you.
Yeah, I've been watching you fight, Julius. You're good, kid. Yeah, maybe even good enough to win the title someday.
Yeah. I want to be a contender, the Italian stallion, the Roman showman,
Yeah, kid, I know, but let me tell you something. You need a manager, a money guy like me. Yeah, 'cause I done it all, kid, believe me. Yeah, the silver mines, and trading slaves for silver, mining silver with slaves, and yeah, the combinations are endless, kid. I even tried mining for slaves, but it turns out they was just dead people.
Nah, I don't need no money, guy. When I'm emperor, I'm gonna have all the money I need. I just want to fight.
Yeah, kid, you like fighting, yeah. But I know fighting. Yeah, 82 BC, Battle of the Colline Gate. I knocked out Pontius Telesinus. 73 BC, the Third Servile War. I smack Spartacus right out of Italy.
I don't need no money guy, no suit, no toga.
But kid, you can't buy what I know. Rivals, they don't just kill themselves, you know. It takes swords and knives and guys who know how to wield them.
Yeah? Me? And you?
Yeah, kid. You could be the winner I never was. You're my last shot.
After they made it to the top, Julius Caesar rewarded Crassus with Syria. It had pretty much everything you needed to enjoy a decadent Roman lifestyle. Crassus should have been happy because, well, Syria's money was serious money. But, like the boys at Enron or Conrad Black, Crassus soon realized the money wasn't enough. He wanted something more. So he got the Romans involved in a war in Parthia. And Parthia is right here. What was supposed to be a fast, simple invasion turned into a huge mess. Oh, I'm sorry, we seem to have the wrong pictures. Are there easier ways to get rich? Yes.
Method number 2, get a monopoly.
A monopoly arises when you have a single firm that sells to or supplies to an entire market, or that firm is so big relative to its competitors that it has incredible market control. If that's the case, they can charge much higher prices than if there were quite a few sellers.
So give me an example of a modern monopoly.
Windows 95, Bill Gates and Microsoft.
Right.
When the product came out, you had to buy the Microsoft Internet Explorer browser.
Right.
It wasn't compatible with any other manufacturer. Well, the other manufacturers took Mr. Gates to court, and it wasn't until 2002 that the case was actually settled. The best example is that of Carlos Slim. He's the richest.
Mexico?
Yes, he's the richest man in the world as of August in 2007. He currently owns 90% of all landline communications and 80% of all cell phones in Mexico. So he'd be considered a monopolist.
Standard Oil.
Yes, yeah, John D. Rockefeller. He was the oil baron. The company was established in 1890. By 1904, Rockefeller Standard Oil controlled 91% of all oil in the United States.
One of the first recorded monopolies was created by an early Greek philosopher, Thales of Miletus, and like J.D. Rockefeller and OPEC, he did it with oil.
Now, Thales of Miletus was a Greek philosopher, but farmers all made fun of him because he was kind of poor. Then one day he's studying the weather and the soil, and he sees that this is gonna be a bumper year for oil. Olive oil, that is. Green gold. Athens tea. Well, right before you know, he's bought up every olive press, and he rents them out at prices that make every farmer stress. The farmer said, Thales, your fees are killing me. It didn't bother Thales, he had a monopoly. Drachma, that is. Gold obols, silver bars.
We're talking about how to get filthy, stinking rich, and one good way to do it is to get a monopoly. Hannah, Walmart's a monopoly, right?
Oh, no, it's not. Think about it. Walmart does have competition. More correctly, Walmart would be called a monopsony. They have much power over their suppliers.
Monopsony.
Yeah, consider it to be a monopoly buyer of resources. For some of the firms that sell their goods to Walmart, 80 and 90% of their business is just with Walmart. Coca-Cola, a few years back, they were designing a new diet soda, and Walmart did not like the formula of the new artificial sweetener.
Okay.
Coca-Cola designed a new formula to keep Walmart happy.
Wow. But long before Walmart got a monopsony, a group of medieval merchants achieved a similar setup. Dr. Ralph Tuchthagen is professor of North and East European Studies and an expert on the history of the Baltic Sea. He's professor at the University of Hamburg, and he's recognized as one of the leading experts in the world on the social and the economic impact of the Hanseatic League. But he's in Hamburg and we couldn't get him. So instead, we've got Wayne Nyamtado, who is the history teacher of Eric, one of our production assistants.
Go Big Wayne.
The Hanseatic League is a
loosely organized group of cities that are trading centers, and they were largely located in the Baltic region.
And what did they deal in?
Lumber, furs, fish. Europe is still largely Catholic at this time, and fish is not only eaten on a Friday, but it is also mandatory on Saturday and Wednesday. So you've got people buying your fish for nearly half of the week.
Wow.
Hello, welcome to the Hanseatic League. Hello, welcome to the Hanseatic League. Hello, welcome to the Hanseatic League. Do you need a shopping cart? No? Okay.
And just like Walmart, local merchants hated them. The Hanseatic League were very good at ensuring delivery, guaranteeing profits, and preventing losses.
Hi there, welcome to the Hanseatic League. Can I help you today?
I worm, you can help me. Give me all your gold.
Aisle 14 has iron ore, copper ore, and ingots. Just under the crates of herring. I don't think we have gold, though.
Trifle not with the Danes, pathetic merchant woman. Yield unto me your glittering golden treasure.
Maybe you mean gold and honey. Aisle 2, that's just beside the herring display.
I need not honey, fool!
Oh yeah, the only sweetness we desire is the sweet sounds of screaming. Oh yeah, the red gurgling of our enemy in his death throes. Oh yeah.
The gold, now!
Perhaps you mean golden wheat or flax. Aisle 2.
Base fool. Tremble in fear and prepare to breathe your last. By Odin's eye, you must now learn the way to the afterlife!
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Afterlife. Why didn't you say? Follow the arrows.
Arrows? What arrows?
These arrows. Clean up aisle 1.
You ever wonder what happened to the Vikings? Well, one nail in their coffin, or plank in their funeral pyre, was tough Hanseatic League merchants fighting back. This is big. The almighty buck was becoming mightier than the almighty sword. Trading replaced raiding. It's the beginnings of the modern world, with money making the world go round. But there is another way to get filthy, stinking rich without facing antitrust suits or violence. It just takes
pure dumb luck or naked ambition.
Method number 3, inherit it.
Yes, inherit it, and then waste it. History is full of men and women who amassed vast amounts of treasure only to have it squandered by squalid and squabbling kids.
The medieval French Emperor Charlemagne amassed a vast empire and then divided it amongst his sons, who divided it amongst their sons, and so on and so on. More recently, here in Canada, the families who founded Irving Oil, McCain Foods, and Canadian Tire were fussing and feuding over the family fortune.
But being born into wealth is no guarantee.
Billionaire Leona Helmsley made a fortune in the hotel and real estate business. When she died, she excluded several of her own grandchildren from her will because
she felt like it. But our next guest did receive a huge inheritance from the Queen of Bean. Trouble, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Rick.
Now, Leona Helmsley gave you over $12 million?
Yes, that's over $140 billion in dog dollars. She was a real bitch. I mean that in the good way, the dog way.
Well, why did she feel the need to give you the money over her own family? Was it warmth? Was it loyalty? Was it a wet nose?
No. I think the real secret to forging a bond with the ultra-wealthy is to bark a lot and bite people.
Okay, if we were to put these dog practices into human terms, then we would...
Sure. Well, let's say you work in a big company.
Okay.
You want a pay raise.
Right.
Arrange to meet your boss, one-on-one.
Right.
And you bite her. And don't let go until you get it. I explain it all in my new book, The Wealthy Barker.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
$140 billion dog dollars says it does.
Well, yeah, but in the... Ow! Ow! Why, you filthy stink... Okay, you want to play dirty? Ed?
Yeah!
Can you take care of this for me?
With pleasure. Scram! She was a real bitch, and I mean that in a bad way.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ed.
Hey, I'm always happy to help out my good buddy, Jay Ingram.
No, Rick Green.
Who?
History Bites.
What?
Of course, you can't choose to be born into wealth, but you can marry into it, then bump off your spouse and inherit their loot. Meet a minor German princess who wed her way into becoming Catherine the Great.
When I was betrothed to Peter, I was not daunted. I stayed up night after night trying to learn Russian so that I could speak to my future husband.
Yeah, that's quite.
I caught pneumonia. I was very ill. But I survived. I'm a survivor.
Quite.
And then I had to switch my religion to Russian Orthodox, which made my father very angry. But in the end, it was all worth it. I got to marry my own prince, who was mentally immature and impotent.
Oh, quite.
There were 200 of us in that marriage. Peter, me, and his collection of toy soldiers. It was quite disconcerting, I can tell you, to have your husband come to bed on your wedding night and have him play with 200 men, even little painted lead ones.
Did it come as a shock when he was deposed?
I suppose I wasn't surprised when the orders were given to have him overthrown and murdered. But then, of course, they were my orders.
After the coup, Peter was out of the picture, and it was just you ruling Russia.
Yes, I now have my own collection of soldiers. They're not toys, but I do play with them in the bedroom.
Stay tuned, it's gonna get worse. Way worse.
Quite.
Throughout history, the low and hungry have competed to marry the high and mighty and get filthy, stinking rich. Jane Austen made a career out of that storyline. But mostly the high and mighty marry each other, not just because they already know each other, but to maintain their wealth. Take the Rothschilds.
Starting in Germany, the Rothschilds built a fortune as international bankers. It's been said they financed both sides in every major war from the American Revolution onwards. The family worried that as it grew, their money would be dissipated out among dozens of sons and daughters-in-law.
So the Rothschilds kept the money in the family by keeping the family in the family.
If we're gonna be married, you'll have to know my family. And here are miniature paintings of some of them. Now there is my Uncle Amshel.
I know, he's my uncle too, oh my God.
Oh, wait till you meet him, you'll love him.
Met him, hate him, oh my God, he's my uncle too.
He lives in...
Frankfurt, go there all the time, hate it, oh my God.
Cousin Mayor, look at that little face. Oh, and my cousin Edmund.
My cousins, my nephews, oh my God, cousins, nephews, oh my God.
Wait, no, who is this funny looking little guy? Is one of my cousins?
It's me, okay? Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. And this is Sal.
Your uncle, my dad.
Oh, and Nathan.
My uncle, your dad, oh my God, so stupid.
And there is my Uncle James. I love James.
Yeah, Uncle James, I know. Uncle James, he's got the maid, Elsa, favorite color blue. He's got that stupid yappy little dog, oh my God.
He is married to my cousin.
My sister.
Ew! He married his niece? Why do families do that sort of thing?
Maybe because their parents don't give them any choice!
The 5 Rothschild brothers arranged 18 matches for their children. 16 were with first cousins. Of course, as any student of genetics will tell you, marrying your cousin is not always a good idea. But the Rothschilds did not care.
A lack of caring for others might be seen as a bad thing in a person, but for getting filthy, stinking rich, it's a positive boon, especially if you choose our next method.
Method number 4, exploit other people.
My name is John Pierpont Morgan. I recall with pride during the American Civil War, when our nation was at its most vulnerable. One division in the U.S. Army was using unsafe rifles that misfired and blew our own troops' fingers off. So, I bought those weapons off our army. Then I resold them to another branch of our army for 7 times what I paid for them. God bless America.
And many get filthy, stinking rich by exploiting people's weaknesses.
Thanks for the funding for the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts must go to the patriarch of the Kennedy family, Joseph Kennedy, who earned the family fortune via bootlegging. Perhaps Chicago will be inspired to build the Al Capone Center for the Performing Arts.
Kennedy wasn't the only family fortune aided and abetted by bootlegging. Canada's Seagrams and Bronfman families both profited from Prohibition. But the Americans have always been much better than the Canadians at producing the worst kind of filthy, stinking rich.
I dedicate New York's newest public institution, the Astor Library. This prestigious edifice would not have been possible were it not for my father, John Jacob Astor. He pulled himself up by his bootstraps and built a ruthless reputation for trading whiskey for furs. He perfected the technique of getting native Indian trappers crazy on whiskey and then cheating them of their money. Now, Dad is gone, and so are many of the Indians. But you can read about them at the Astor Public Library.
If there's a large public building anywhere in New York City, it's probably there because someone's trying to whitewash their family legacy. Those 19th century robber barons and industrialists proved if you're willing to exploit other human beings, you can make a filthy, stinking fortune.
Our most valuable asset is our people. There's nothing quite like a nice piece of asset. Perfect for asset management or asset stripping. Then in winter, you throw them away and they become frozen assets.
Today, big companies outsource our manufacturing jobs to third world countries where people will work for slave wages. But to really keep costs down, do away with the wages, keep the slaves. Slave trading. Was there ever a more filthy, stinking business? You missed a spot.
We Egyptians used the Jews as slaves.
We Greeks used captured Persians as slaves.
And we Romans used conquered Greeks. And Gauls and Germans.
And Britons.
The whole EU.
EU. EU.
In the Middle Ages, the Slavs were the slaves. Isn't that weird?
Not really. That's where the word slave comes from, isn't it?
Ow! In 1793, the government of Upper Canada passed laws against owning slaves, and many Canadians immediately got rid of their slaves by selling them in the US, where slavery was still legal. Slavery didn't completely disappear in Canada until 1834, when it was abolished across the British Empire. America followed suit after some civil discussion and a civil war. Ironically, abolition created a labor shortage just as the Industrial Revolution was gearing up. There were vast fortunes just waiting to be made in stinking, filthy, unsafe factories. What's a robber baron to do without slaves? What am I, made of money? Get a job!
Mr. Jameson, thank you for coming in. I'm Mrs. Gallagher, head of our personnel department. Now let's just check your resume. Very good. 5 years experience in textiles. Good record. Still have all of your limbs. Excellent. You would be astonished, I assure you, at the number of children who've lost hands or feet in the textile machines and then claim they can work just as hard. Now, Happy Time Textiles prides itself at being the finest textile mill in New England. We really believe in a family atmosphere, and I see that 6 of your siblings are here already. Well, make that 5 3/4 if you count all the lost appendages. Only 4. Oh, 2 of them were killed in accidents, were they? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That is simply unacceptable. Why, I have no record of that. Susan, come in here, please. Susan, we have 2 workers who no longer work here and shouldn't be on payroll. This is the 5th mistake this week. You're fired. Go pack up your rattles and bottles and leave. I'm sorry about that.
Child labor wasn't a big issue in Canada back in the 1800s because this country wasn't heavily industrialized. Not that it is today. But in the United States and in Britain, child labor was a scandal.
Well, welcome aboard. You can start 6 tomorrow morning and finish at 9 tomorrow evening. Sundays and half of Christmas off. Do you like Christmas?
Dozens of industrialists got incredibly wealthy by exploiting child labor, and Charles Dickens made his fortune by attacking it. His novels, Oliver Twist, Bleak House, and others, roused Victorians to action.
jurisdiction after jurisdiction brought in laws against child labor.
Meal breaks will be extended to 8 minutes. Children under 10 can't work in mines. No whipping of any child who is a girl. Only teenagers may handle dynamite.
So, child workers were set free, and adult workers were exploited. And then along came a solution that killed more people than, well, pretty well anything else in history. Communism. But first, a word from capitalism. By the late 1900s, nations were outlawing child labor. But exploiting the poor was essential to the new system for getting filthy, stinking rich, namely unbridled and unregulated capitalism. The exploitation that Charles Dickens wrote about was the basis for another revolutionary bestseller, Das Kapital by Karl Marx.
Comrade Karl Marx!
Engels! How goes our struggle against the capitalist system? Is our message reaching the proletariat? Even if 1 or 2 people read my words, I shall be satisfied.
Then prepare yourself to be even more than satisfied. I have received a note from the publisher. Your book, Das Kapital, has sold more than 10,000 copies.
It was to be expected. How many?
10,000 copies! In the eager hands of thinking men and women, in the universities, in the factories, in the farms, your message is surging forth.
10,000? Hardcover? With the cloth print?
The wind of change blows strong. The scent of
1995
glorious
each.
revolution is in the air.
And what is our cut? 10%?
No, I think 12. At last, the bourgeoisie will realize that throughout history there has only been one struggle, the class struggle. Already, Karl, there is support from the Russian miners.
Russia? We're selling books in Russia?
Yeah! 20,000 copies! English factory workers, French farmers, Russian peasants, over 500,000 people have read your book.
Bought and read it, or went to the library and read it?
Bought! Woohoo! The rise of the proletariat, the overthrowing of the filthy, stinky, capitalist way of production.
Even publishing?
Yes. Money and wealth will be a thing of the past. Ideas will be freely exchanged in a worker's paradise?
Yeah, good, as I hoped. Engels, I've been thinking, we could overthrow the class struggle, the capitalist mode of production, yada, yada, yada.
Right, or?
Or we could write another best-selling book. Make it a series. Das Kapital, the workbook. Or Das Kapital, the quote-a-day calendar.
Das Kapital for the mother soul?
Oh, Das Kapital, the pop-up book.
Das Kapital and the Deathly Hallows. Mein Gott, we will be rich!
What do you mean, we?
Das Kapital predicted the filthy, stinking rich were doomed, but the communist leaders who subsequently swept to power lived in luxury by, once again, exploiting the people at the bottom.
This is outrageous. What about their communist ideals? Have they forgotten that greed is evil?
Turns out communism led to an even worse evil. Some say Stalin and Mao exploited as many as 100 million of their own people to death. The communists stole the idea of exploitation from the capitalists and took it to a whole new level.
In fact, many of the world's newest billionaires come from the formerly communist Russia and the currently communist China.
And that brings us to method number 5. Exploit someone else's idea.
This is an official box set of History Bites, and this is a pirated copy downloaded from a website that has illegal copies. In fact, the company who did the official box set did so because they saw that people were pirating the show and they figured, well, there must be a demand for it. The point is, ideas are the new currency, and stealing them is the new way to get filthy, stinking rich. Well, not all that new.
Meet American inventor Charles Goodyear. He worked long and hard to develop the rubber that bears his name. At the age of 39, he discovered the process of vulcanization that created rubber that bounced and stretched. By the age of 60, when he died, he had amassed $200,000 in debt. A young man took Goodyear's idea, took the family name, and the Goodyear family never got a cent. Not even a rubber check.
Time and again throughout history, it's not the person with the great idea who gets rich, it's the one who exploits it.
Orville and Wilbur invented the airplane, but airlines, plane builders, airport construction companies, and metal detector makers made more than they ever did.
Ford made his fortune in cars, but he didn't invent them. That patent went to Daimler and Benz back in 1885, over a decade before Ford got rolling. And Ford is credited with mass-producing cars by inventing the assembly line, but it's also claimed that he got that idea from a Chicago slaughterhouse.
Every worker had one job, one part of the process. They'd do the same thing over and over again. Well, I realized the same thing would work in the construction of the automobile.
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Ford. Sounds a bit dehumanizing.
I'll dehumanize you!
Okay.
The production line wasn't invented in Canada, but this line was. A Canadian engineer named John D. Miller invented the line down the center of the highway, thus saving millions of lives and earning him squat.
Moving from rural roads to the information superhighway, the people who set up the internet never made anything close to the billions earned by Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who allowed us to search the web on Google. Or Canadian Mike Lazaridis, who let people check their email on a BlackBerry.
We Macintosh users like to claim that Microsoft copied Mac, but actually both of them are based on a system developed by technicians at Xerox. Yes, computers. That's where the real money is. According to these statistics, Bill Gates is more than twice as wealthy as the wealthiest Canadian, Ken Thompson, who's worth $25 billion. I'd settle for that. Funny, everyone uses Bill's software, yet all I hear are people complaining about it. I guess when you're exploiting an idea, keeping the end user happy isn't necessarily all that important.
Oh, damn!
Problem?
I'll say. It's this machine he is, this typewriter.
It's a typewriter.
Oh, whatever, it jams. It can't keep up with me.
You need to improve the keystroke. Use a lighter metal, refine the design, reduce some of this key friction.
Or, instead of having the letters arranged alphabetically, we could jumble them. You know, make things a little less efficient. Slow people down to a speed this crappy little machine can handle.
Thanks to this business decision, millions of people worldwide use a keyboard designed to help them type slowly. Another inventor who didn't get rich off his invention was John Logie Baird. He invented television. But the big money is in the commercials. As we've seen, a lot of inventors saw little or no profit from their ideas, especially in the days before the patent, and in the days since China started manufacturing everything while ignoring all the trademarks and copyrights. But some inventors did all right by their ideas, like Thomas Edison. In fact, Edison's biggest idea, the light bulb, is synonymous with ideas. Actually, it wasn't entirely his idea. In 1874, Canadian medical student Henry Woodward and his colleague Matthew Evans patented their own idea for a light bulb. They couldn't afford to pay their heating bills, let alone electricity, so they sold their idea to Thomas Edison. He refined it and made a fortune. Most of Thomas Edison's inventions were invented by his employees. Edison took the credit and got rich. But taking credit doesn't make him filthy stinking rich. No, what made Edison filthy stinking rich happened during the struggle between AC electric power and DC. The Westinghouse company promoted AC, which is way better for home use, and it's what we use now. Edison promoted DC, great for flashlights, lousy for home use. When Edison couldn't defend DC, he attacked AC. He secretly sponsored demonstrations where dogs and cats were killed with AC electricity. When that didn't scare people into switching to DC, he had an innocent elephant electrocuted. When that didn't scare people off of AC, he went after human beings.
You know, you'll be the first man to die in an electric chair.
I know, sir, and I'm mighty, mighty honored.
Warden, there's a message from the governor. It says Thomas Edison is coming.
Oh my gosh! Why, he's my favorite inventor. He makes Alexander Graham Bell look like a bonehead.
Hello! Did I miss it? Is Is he still breathing? More importantly, am I? So proud to be here for this demonstration on what you can do with Westinghouse AC electricity. Now, you boys in the press, make sure you get that down. Westinghouse. Now, you must be Kemmler. Hello, is this thing on? I hope not. I hope not.
You know, I'm a little worried about how this is all going to feel.
What's on your mind?
Well, I'm a little concerned.
No. That's how it's gonna feel. What's on your mind? You get it? Anyone? What's on your mind? Now, when they turn on the alternating current electricity from Westinghouse, not Edison. Now, you make sure you get that clear, boys. Why don't you hold on to this? I think it's gonna look real neat. Now, can you do this? Is that okay?
I don't think the prison rules will allow that.
Oh, no, shoot. Well, you keep on to it anyways because it's guaranteed for a lifetime. Your lifetime, anyways.
Oh, Mr. Edison, I hate to break this up, but we really have to move on. I mean, it's time for the execution.
Oh, no. Me and the boys, well, we came up with a new name for execution by alternating current. We call it electrocution. Brought to you by the Westinghouse Company. Now, write this down, fellas. The Westinghouse brand alternating
The U.S. Constitution forbids cruel punishment, and electrocution is agonizingly cruel. Edison, who already had money up the wazoo, was secretly sponsoring the electric chair so that the public would associate his rival's alternating current with death.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. Throw the switch.
Okay, we've seen 5 paths to filthy, stinking riches. But some people use more than one method. Alexander inherited a kingdom before he built an empire, and Thomas Edison had ideas, but he also gained monopolies through the use of patents. But imagine if you combined all 5 methods, how filthy, stinking rich you could be. And that brings us to our super secret 6th method.
Method number 6, all of the above.
Meet Jacob Fugger, the moneylender to the rulers of Europe. His money put one emperor and a couple of popes in power. After some royal clients defaulted, Jacob ended up with monopolies in copper and other metals. He was born into wealth. He encouraged wars so that he could profit from them. And things really came together for Fugger in the 1520s when he did a deal with the Pope. Jacob became so rich, if he were alive today, he'd have his own infomercial.
You know what people call me? They call me Jacob Fugger the Rich. And I like that. I like being rich.
I know people who, if they see a copper coin, they won't stoop over to pick it up. Me? I'd pick it up. That's right. I like copper. In fact, I have a monopoly in copper. I've made money in spices. I've made money in banking. People see a war, what do? They run. Ah! I'm dying! Ah! Me? I invest.
Fugger is not about motivating people.
No, you already know what motivates you, eh?
Yeah, like say you want to get a bishop's seat, or eliminate a rival, or rule a principality, or...
Well, what he does for you is he eliminates what is blocking you from wealth.
No, it's a miracle.
You see, it's the same thing that's blocking everyone from achieving his or her life goals. And it's called guilt. Because we're all sinners. We are. Okay, how many of you have ever lied? Say I. Okay, me too. How many of you have ever indulged in usury? Say I. How many of you have ever lent money to mercenary armies just so they could keep fighting and keep borrowing? Say I. Okay, not many of you there. Okay, how many of you have ever lent money to King George V so he could bribe the 7 electors and become Holy Roman Emperor? Okay, that's just me. But I don't feel guilty. No, because I'm forgiven. Because I have one of these. And you can too. It's a little contract with God. It's official, and it's signed by the Pope.
That's me. It's great. It says, hey God, sure I've made a few mistakes, but I'm only human. Indulge me a little here.
And you know what we call it? We call it an indulgence. Isn't that awesome?
Awesome.
He's awesome.
But here's the thing. You can only get these from me.
It's said that Jacob Fugger's monopoly on papal indulgences increased his already considerable wealth tenfold. People paid for forgiveness for their sins, and he laughed all the way to the bank, which was his as well. So there you go. That's how to become filthy, stinking rich. Now you know you can go out and do it. Just put your morals on hold and claw your way up to the financial stratosphere. Or you can stop and smell the roses. And I find it encouraging that we live in a world that is less and less about bribery, brute force, and violence, and more about democracy, public scrutiny, public opinion. The more you know about history, the more you realize the world is getting better. Sure, there are still plenty of people who get rich on the pain and suffering of others, but compared to even 100 years ago, the filth is less filthy, the stink is less stinky, and the rich are less rich. For example, taking inflation into account, Bill Gates is only worth 1/3 of what J.D. Rockefeller was, and Alexander the Great, well, he claimed most of the known world. But hey, if you want to become filthy, stinking rich, you can learn how by studying history. Just remember, history bites.
By the beard of Odin, merchants defeating us! Oh, this Hanseatic League will taste revenge. Their dying cries will be for mercy from the wrath of the Danes. We must attack them, yes, with swords more terrible and arrows more deadly.
Shields more shieldy. But Wolfstan, where will we find such fearsome weapons?
Hello, and welcome to the Hanseatic League. Can I help you?
Yeah. We'd like to buy some swords.